see if the rest of the thread holds up. Story 2. I only really skimmed, but nobody really answered the question. Sushi. Any kind of sushi burrito. Always fresh, never frozen. Sushi for college kids, and whoever is cutting the fish doesn't know what they are doing. Hearing water continually running behind the sushi counter. That means they are improperly burgers. They are lying. Flat out lying to the point where it's disrespectful because they think they can get away with it. And they usually do. Grilled to perfection. You are at a chain restaurant. Perfect grill marks that only go in one direction. This piece of meat has never been in the same room as a grill. Red flags in general, almost all Pan-Asian inspired cuisine. A paragraph at the bottom of the menu describing their philosophy on food sustainability or saying, now this is a double-edged sword. There is house-made anything on the menu. Cocktail menus that describe in too much detail using words that people other than bartenders don't really understand. Shrub oleosaccharine. This just means, look at me, I know how to make duck fat washed bourbon. Duck fat washed bourbon. Look, I order myself a nice scotch and that's it. If you wash my scotch in duck fat, I think I might be mad. 3. ITT. A lot of people pointing out that a lot of people in this thread are not chefs. Sarcasm aside, I don't have a culinary degree, and I did spend 10 years cooking. You
Careful, brother. You're covered in white dog.
This is will be even worse. Instead of featuring it, simply the guy who brings me not necessarily how I judge things like that. Make sure there's any something models even things that hardly ever get used and need a elaborate reach. That takes real dedication to the detail. Signs, models, things garnish. Your line doesn't look and feel like it was cut in the last hour, get the
Seems for every
Firstly, if they
sample
already
find
good
two
with
more.
cherries
It's
instead of
almost
day glow
impressive.
red abominations, you're probably at a place that gives about ingredients in the kitchen as well. Story 4. Personally, I'm very cautious of any of the buffets are gross enough when they're constantly coughing and clearing their throats and spitting while talking in the lineup, smacking their lips, and makes me squirm. Judge me for being judgy, but I've seen it firsthand at nearly every buffet I've worked at, but I won't go near one that isn't manned by a cook or served at the stations. If I see customers in sweatpants and a t-shirt at a buffet, I order from the menu. Honestly, I know what I'm getting into if I go to a buffet. I don't really go to buffets, but if I did, I'm well aware of the quality. It's like if I get some fast food. I know it's garbage, but sometimes I want my garbage, so Story 5. Not a chef, but a bartender here. When I sit down at a bar, I watch how the bartender pours from their taps. If they stick the tap into the drink while they're pouring, I stick with the bottle drink. I was taught very early on not to do that, and having worked at a lot of places where I've seen the smegma of build-up, moldy drink residue, dead fruit flies that come out of those things when they're cleaned, usually after many, many months or years has passed in some cases, I'll always pass on tap drink if I see that. It's an often undercleaned, uncovered, unwiped part of the bar, and most people on the other side of the bar never think twice. It's also a sign that other things, like their soda guns and ice well, are potentially being cleaned and sanitized properly. Not to mention their rags aren't being swapped out and sanitized. The list goes on. I don't bother the bartender, I don't make a scene, I just order a bottle because that isn't being handled by the establishment other than when they open it. Also, don't get me started on staff snacking out of the garnish tray. Story 6. Waiter, not chef, but I agree with a lot I've read here. General cleanliness. If they can't keep the small things clean, they're cutting corners everywhere with hygiene. A good restaurant keeps on top of that stuff. Maintenance, again relating to cutting corners. If items are maintained, condiments and the like, then you can be sure that there are lapses elsewhere. Staff. This is an interesting one, but from experience, if the staff doesn't seem to work well together or not, there's a red flag that the restaurant isn't being looked after properly, leading to issues with the first two. There's probably a bunch of other stuff I've missed. Truth be told, restaurant biz is usually high pressure, so everything like cleaning is done as quickly as possible. Often that translates to poor quality. I usually go out, it's stupid, I hate this, in the middle of the damned courtroom like an idiot. Story 8. Showed up to plead not guilty on weed charge while wearing shorts printed with pot leaves and a t-shirt with a blunt on it. Story 9. I wasn't the lawyer, but a paid expert witness. As our lawyer questioned the federal employee environmental law case, our client jumped up from the table and screamed in his broken English, That a C, she a effing lies like a W. Fines were paid, but we did win the case. Story 10. I'm not a legal professional, but I once beat a speeding ticket because the DA failed to identify that I was the defendant. Like, he never had me say my name, or he never said it. He just started talking. The judge let him finish and then looked at me and told me I could go, and then said to the DA, "You didn't even say his name in my chambers now." Then I just left, and it was awesome. I was 17 at the time. Story 11. I am a lawyer now, but this was when I was in law school and we had to go watch actual court cases in the local district court. A guy is accused of destroying some stuff his neighbor owns. After a complicated plea by his lawyer about how some evidence is inadmissible and therefore cannot be proven the defendant is guilty, the judge delivers the verdict, agrees with the lawyer, and acquits him. The defendant gets up, walks towards the judge as if to shake his hand, and says, "Thank you, Your Honor, I'll never do it again." The prosecutor then quasi-jokingly says, "Appeal." I know it's more complicated and there are reasons, but that crap is so dumb. Find you innocent of murder. You're free to go. Thank heavens, because I totally did it. Dang, well, I'll get you next time. Story 12. Was a bailiff in a county court. Had a defendant approach me saying his phone was missing. I knew only 2 people had sat where he left the phone. Questioned them about it real quick, and they lied, saying they had no idea what I was talking about. While walking up to the judge for their case, noticed the phone in the back pocket of one of them. Asked him to hand me the phone in his back pocket. He did, and then a deputy took over. Afterward, the judge decided that probation wasn't a great idea for someone who would openly steal in a courtroom. Gave him a year, close to the max for the crime, to think about it. Story 13. I observed a case where the plaintiff attorney played Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror as his closing argument to evoke an emotional response in the jury. He lost. Story 14. Not my case, but still a personal favorite. I was sitting in court waiting for my turn. Case going was a littering eye case. Officer said he saw the defendant throw the clear wrapper with gum out of his window. The guy decided to defend himself. Girlfriend takes the stand. Officer has already testified. The guy asks, "Did I throw a gum wrapper out the window?" She replies, "No, you did not," with this huge grin on her face. The defendant is now also grinning and goes, "What did I throw out the window?" To which she replies, "It was the plastic wrapper from your cigarettes." I rests his case right there. Literally trying to get off the officer to identify the clear plastic bag when it comes to legal matters, is the advice that I know to be true. Never represent yourself in court. When it comes to my father is an attorney and he always comes to referrals when we'd ask him this question. He doesn't pay better than I do, but I'll give it a shot. Some dude was allegedly smashing others in the like in this guy's a hero. Apparently a cop says something about how other men who fled on foot will be apprehended. My father's client's face lights up in an aha moment and immediately tells the judge, "Not true, there were 4 of us." I guess he thought if he could disprove someone that said he'd be let go. Safe to say he was found guilty of vandalism. My father says the judge just kind of sighed and told my father it would be a good idea to keep his client quiet. Story 16. My brother was on a jury back in the days of MySpace. A woman had been hit by a big rig during foggy weather. She was suing for a back injury. The last day of the trial, they asked her if she had a MySpace account and brought up her site for the jury to see. I think all profiles were open then. There's a picture of her dancing, and right next to it is a text exchange of her saying that she shouldn't go up to insurance requires that she needs to say she needs MySpace. Story 17. Once attended arguments for U.S. It's pretty much the big time. The lawyer argued that his client received what's known as ineffective assistance of counsel at the trial, she was appealing. The attorney, however, was appealing Jack. So, judges asks him, "Counselor, are you currently providing ineffective assistance of counsel?" I may have most of the U.S. legal system and the damn world of a sassy judge. Seriously, if a judge was sentencing me to time in prison, I'm assassin. Story 18. Defendant is apprehended for warrants and asks judge for bail. Tells judge he moved and was not served with the warrants. Some questions as to his identity. Judge asks defendant where he was born. Defendant says Puerto Rico. Definitely totally looks mestizo, not Puerto Rican at all. Judge asks where in Puerto Rico. Defendant says San Juan. Judge asks defendant, when were you last in San Juan? Defendant says a couple of years ago. Judge asks defendant, how did you get there? Defendant replies, I went on the Amtrak. Judge would not grant bail. When you flunk geography, it's for a lifetime. Story 19. Lawyer was verbally running through the evidence against the guy he was defending, trying to claim there wasn't enough to call a trial. All totally fine, except he said, I believe a more seasoned judge wouldn't have let this trial move forward. Knowing that the judge he's speaking to gave the okay to move the trial to this court, he was immediately given a hard motion denied. Story 20. A defense lawyer was delivering her closing statements to the jury. In her final sentence, she said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I urge you to find my client guilty. There was a moment of silence, and she then says, not guilty. I meant to say not guilty. Story 21. I'm an attorney, and I heard about a hearing where there were several criminal defendants before the judge. Judge noticed a strong pot smell in the courtroom and asked if any of the defendants had pot on them. No one came forward, and the judge proceeded, but the odor became stronger and stronger. Finally, the judge demanded the perpetrator come forward. Finally, one of them came forward and had several bags of weed on him. I'm not sure what the charges were before him that day, but I wouldn't want to offend his attorney. I know some of you in the comments will talk about how this stuff is fake, but I have a couple of friends who work in the court system as clerks and a stenographer. Let me just say, stuff like in the stories we've read aren't just believable. They happen more than you would think. Story 22. Sovereign citizens always make for a There was a guy getting a divorce with his wife for 25 years. His entire argument for why he shouldn't pay alimony to his wife, who stayed home taking care of their 8 kids, 3 of whom were still at home, is that since his wife would no longer do her marital duties, it wasn't a marriage.
This one.
She wouldn't sleep with him because he was against trying to prevent more kids happening at home, and referenced the Bible on top of it. The judge's face was priceless. Story 23. I don't know how true this email her client, but accidentally emailed us instead, with all the details of the class action. Story 26. I was an expert engineer witness at a deposition defending a contractor who had himself. Plaintiff claims he was liable as an engineer as well as the contractor. Defense was he was the contractor. Doesn't mean he was the engineer for the project just because he was one. After 6 hours of headache-inducing questioning, plaintiff's lawyer pulls out a letter from and certified by the contractor that simply stated, I am the engineer for the project. He sits back and basically
Oh, the fuck is that? Knockout! Knockout! Yeah, too easy, boy.
Okay, I'll just say it. I'm getting a really terrible feeling in this place.
This was where we freed the imposter. Dear.
Odin took our noblest instincts and used them against us.
It's what he always does.
We will bear the weight of our mistakes, not with guilt, but with footsteps heavy with purpose.
No, man, I'm just here
Come.
to see my friend. I ain't got
We
no
have work
case.
to do.
He was the one who got caught. I got away. No, he didn't get away. Why do people think they can get away with just admitting to crap in court just because they aren't the ones on trial? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if someone was like, I'm just here to watch my murder trial because I'm guilty as hell. Story 32. Defendant was willing to stay on probation conditioned on jail until results was argued out. In rebuttal, the defense lawyer's argument against the prosecutor said something and stood up sticks out as a guy who was up for DUI. He starts relating his side of the story and tells the judge he only had 2 bottles of wine. His lawyer is desperately trying to get him to stop talking, and he yelled at his own lawyer, "Don't interrupt me." The judge says, "I think you should take a moment to listen to your attorney." And that he told the judge, "Don't tell me what to do, I'm not a damn child." And the judge just smiled and leaned back and said, "By all means, continue." It went badly for him, unsurprisingly. Story 34. Saw a lawyer schedule a preliminary trial on a non-criminal court day. These days were reserved for family practice, etc. The lawyer insisted by not doing so, a violation of his client's right to custody in jail and needed to be transported about 2 hours out of town for this court case. The judge knew the lawyer would be late. It was always late. So when the inmates arrived to court on the scheduled non-criminal court day, the lawyer was, guessed it, late. Once the defendant was in process to the courtroom, the judge immediately told the clerk to not call the lawyer's office, and he started looking at his watch. After about 10 minutes, the judge called it, and we out-processed the prisoner of the transport vehicle. By the time the prisoner was moving on the property, the lawyer pulled into the parking lot. It was a closed-door session between the judge and the lawyer. A fly on the wall for that. Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video.
Shit crazy as hell.
Lawyer here. I do
TV. 60 on these sales. I hope I don't have to see the daylight in the courtroom. Jury duty and all. I swear. Hopefully I don't. Hopefully I don't.
Consider the destroyed evidence to be bad or destroyed. Do you think the jury would find out about there being evidence someone destroyed and think, well, that's probably for the better. Too much evidence would be such a hassle. Story 36. When I was clerking for a judge, a defendant wrote to the judge trying to explain that the 2 bongs found in the floorboard of the car were actually his girlfriend. But he was afraid to speak up earlier because she was in Section 8.
Kratos,
For Section
I
8
see
recipients.
something.
I knew he was on probation at the time. The cops pulled him over. It didn't matter who owned the guns. He was still in violation of his probation for being in possession of drug paraphernalia. His attempts to get out from his charges not only screwed over his girlfriend, but it also...
Hey, you can't be. Hold on, let me search that shit up. That's crazy as hell. I ain't know you can't smoke weed when you on Section 8, bro. Well, in federal, it's like public housing under federal jurisdiction. That's crazy.
A statue. Made for the ace here.
Indeed. And then stolen by Ulfjolf the thief. That's all of the rebel artifacts. Perhaps we can return them to Luda.
He was under arrest, so the cops asked him to stand up for their safety. Youngblood stood up, and a baggie of meth fell out of his lap onto the ground. He had no idea how it got there. I'm going to share some advice for all you folks. You don't have to let the cops search your home or car. Seriously, tell them to pound sand. The criminal defense professor had a doormat that said, "Come back with a warrant." If they threaten to get a warrant, be nice and tell them you'll wait. I love cops, but too often they violate your constitutional rights, and that crap needs to stop. Story 42. A girl who was about to completely get off with no more than an adult caution due to her going to Australia, well, she decided that even this was not fair, as she shouldn't be getting any punishment. Her boyfriend's car. Leaving the scene, arriving before they had to break onto her stomach, where, once arrested, she damaged a police vehicle and spat at the custody sergeant. The boyfriend refused to make a statement and said he was driving, and the custody sergeant decided to leave the whole spitting. When she got into the box, she took off her shoe and threw it in the direction of the judge. Naturally, the size of the courtroom and her not being LeBron meant it didn't get far. Safe to say, after that, she ended up with some time having to be served inside and subsequently no Australia. Story 43. Defendants claim they got trapped in the linen closet in the 2008 World Series and therefore working against their car. They were ordered to make the original. I'm sorry, were the defendants characters in a sitcom? Pretty sure I've seen this episode of Friends. Oh, that Joey. How you doing indeed, sir? Story for
Let me beat your ass, let me beat your ass. Stop crazy, go punch him.
That's a horrendous breach of
I believe that's the last of them.
And that's the last of them. Spectacular work. I guess. Not that I care. You mean nothing to me. Nothing at all.
That's great, friend.
My friend. Goodbye.
Good gracious.
I was working as court staff in a hearing where a guy was accused of robbing a grocery store. The defendant's lawyer was arguing that they could not identify the man.
Oh shit.
The wee bastard's about to explode!
Just to reschedule it because she didn't have time to talk to the defendant prior to the next court date, showed up late again and proceeded, despite still not having time to talk to the defendant, with a lawyer. Second time she was late, I got to facepalm as I listened to judge and bailiff joke about what a crackpot my public defender was. Story 47. Lawyer here. When I had been licensed less than a year, I was representing a guy in a custody case. He was adamant that his ex was on drugs, so I requested drug testing. The judge said both parties had to be tested, which I had warned my client would likely be the judge's request. Mom tested clean. My guy tested positive for drugs. He did not win the case. Same guy also fell asleep during the hearing. People, just listen to your lawyers. I know we all joke about how sleazy lawyers are, but if you want to play their games, you better rely on the people who actually know the effing rules. Story 48. There was an episode of Paternity caught on TV where the girl spent almost the entire episode berating the cop, having people analyze genetic similarities.
The runic word appeared over there. See it?
Ridiculous because she hadn't been with anybody else in years, etc.
Soon.
The judge finally listened to him since he has anything to say in his defense since he's been standing there quietly just taking this verbal assault of his paperwork. Plaintiff takes it up to the judge and dismisses the case in the guy's favor. It gets explained that he had been actively deployed by the military for 4 years and wasn't even in country at the time that the baby was conceived. Story 49. Got sued for some crap, and one of the things they were after was lost wages of $10,000 and used financial
The hilt is drawn to the gravestone.
$5,000 per week. Trucker or operator. My insurance company.
I think it was so good.
Start over the trouble fund.
Behind you! Incoming!
Damn! Alright, man, let's knock these guys out. We probably can use those long-ass moves because this probably won't help you. I can't use those long moves because they won't.
We knew exactly when the false transactions were posted. Footage placed them right there doing something and intentionally blocking the view at that exact time. There's only one way everything added up, but they still got away with it. If they'd just been calling cash out,
Good father,
so
Pierce.
quite well.
Start
The
over the
accounts were
trouble
never
fund.
because there was a transaction in the system. So they've been doing this occasionally for a couple months. We figured they'd be turn procedures changed after. The server tell a customer he will
Watch your left!
grocery store. Being was taking all the vanilla and shelf in front of He ended up with like this video, this boy will pay you a nice until then, check another video.
Man, this dude do a lot of damage shit. That's the end of y'all.
Berserkers. I am reminded of our search for the Valkyries 2 winters ago.
I can see the similarities.
It's like 2 winters when that
There
happened.
is one difference. With the Valkyries, you lack spite.
Brother, I appreciate the sentiment, but you don't know the full tale.
I know how it feels to be wronged, and how it feels to achieve vengeance. I would hope to spare you the disappointment.
Aye.
Just creating a web sheet. Activating my profiles, but it's up to you. Either of these two will work, so just decide, just settle on what works for you and go with it. And as always, there are facts do not matter, just use whatever works for you. And when it comes to the blades, we use the promos because it's actually free, wood damage, and you freeze, make it back. Activating map, never frost, but it's up to you. Either of those two will work, so just decide, just settle on what works for you and go with it. And as always, the running attacks do not matter, just use whatever works for you. And when it comes to the blades, we use the promos of running attacks because it's going to increase damage and increase how much damage you get whenever an enemy is hurting. It's going to be relevant later because this build is being able to trigger innovation, whatever. And this build doesn't matter for just about again. I just use these almost the heat of the flowing just for this ramp, and that's it. But as long as you have all the enchantments, it doesn't matter what else you do. It's, again, even when it comes to the shields, nothing. I think the Guardian shields increase strength because every single shield increases some stat, but not
Times we talked about random stuff. One of the things we talked about was a local guy our age who had apparently killed his parents and disappeared. The guy's whereabouts were at the time still unknown, and there was a massive police manhunt.
covered in Bifrost.
Above you!
Another in her yard. To the left.
This days later. I was about 9. I was outside in front of my apartment. We're sitting we see this guy
Last one.
Must be done.
I'm sure the civilians were partaking with thanks. Well, thank both of you. Point at the screen.
How he lost his wife and kid because of alcohol. How he's turned. Same weirdo had memorized my name tag, and looked up the store phone number just to ask for me by name, tell me I was cute, and ask me to go to the pool at his health club with him. Keep in mind that I only looked about 16 names, obviously, and that I was leaving town forever. LOL. My manager was more freaked out about it than I was, though. He thought it was my dad on the phone or something, but when he realized it was some old creep, he wouldn't let me close the store by myself for a while after that. My friend and I were downtown one day and decided to eat lunch at a crappy food court in some old mall. Most of the places were closed down except a Subway and a non-chain pizza place. We each ordered a slice of pepperoni and a fountain drink from the man behind the counter. First thing that was weird was that he wasn't wearing a uniform, just plain clothes. The second thing that was off was that he and I laughed about it, eat our food, and go on with our day. Half an hour later, we both sit down in a hotel lobby and each end up falling asleep at roughly the same time and waking up a good hour later. We were both freaked out that we would each fall asleep for no reason and both noticed that we felt pretty crappy. A few hours later, we decided to get dinner at the Subway at the food court. As we enter, we noticed that there are 2 new, freaked-out looking people working at Pizza Place. They both are wearing uniforms. At the other exit of the food court on the opposite side, we see paramedics taking a gurney to an ambulance. Strapped to the gurney is the man that served us our pizza. A janitor was mopping up some kind of mess in front of the pizza place. We both have no clue what happened, and we were too weirded out to even want to know / ask the people at the pizza place what the heck had happened. Not really to me exactly, but I was very much involved. My first year in college, I started dating this ridiculously beautiful girl in my program. I'd kind of stolen her from another guy also in the program, but didn't think too much of it at first. They'd been only casually dating. A mutual friend of ours tells me that this guy is very a portrait of a deranged anti-Sabin. Never told anyone the connection between these 2 separate events and have no idea what to do about it. Sworn to secrecy with both girls about this info, and it's pretty serious stuff. The guy still wants the facts. I see him every once in a while, but have no idea the LDR, the center of that anti-Sabin child abuse conspiracy. I was in bed one night, drifting off into the darkness of my bedroom. I couldn't quite get to sleep. So I went to open my window. Back to bed, staring at the ceiling, hoping that I'll sleep. That was when I heard the sound. Now, I wasn't yet asleep. I was thinking that it could be a burglar or something. My head started pumping. You know, the light kicks in. When I was younger, I went on a building street to my granddad's sheet metal work factory. One of my best memories was bonding with a made an axe. So I reached through this axe, this little hand hand axe I had made years ago and creeped out of my room in the news. Here's that sound. This time, closer. I didn't want to alert the birds. Anyway,
all of Garm's handiwork has been fixed.
Moving up the stairs. Whoever it was, really didn't want to be heard. Whoever it is,
how about that?
It's only a few steps away from me. I'm aware of it, but
Perhaps
it's not
we should
aware
let
of me.
Rascal go.
3 closer, 2 closer still, 1. I switch on the light, and with my hand axe held high, screaming at the top of my lungs, I am met with another naked man. The fear of God seared on his face also screams. Looking back at this, though, makes me laugh. 2 naked men screaming at the top of the staircase, one with a frickin' hand axe, both of us almost crapping ourselves with fear. TLDR, I nearly killed someone at the top of my stairs with my self-made hand axe. It's to picture you killing him with an axe every time you guys see each other. When I was about 7, I was at a store and I was looking at little packets of confetti on the bottom shelf. I felt someone standing directly behind me, and when I looked up, some man had his dong out right behind my head. It scared the crap out of me. I ran to find my mother, but I wouldn't tell her what happened. I had totally forgotten about this until I read this thread. Now I have to repress it all over again. And when suddenly a silhouetted figure walks at our same pace about 15 feet away, then 10 feet away. At 5 feet, we notice he's not wearing any pants and he's stroking someone. We walk for about 30 seconds and notice it's his erect dong that he's stroking. Plus, he's staring at us. At this point, we're on the offensive and hedging into our pantless, dong-pleasuring predator's comfort zone. We walk so close that he gets uncomfortable and goes closer to the waterline. We eventually herd him alone and feed him. Then we proceed to never speak of them again. I think you guys freaked him out more than the other way around. Kudos to you for having the only story to turn it around like that. For this, you should be on top. Sadly, I can only upvote once. The girl that was stalking me for years sent me this text message. I walked into your house this morning. I brought the gun from our end table. Your blood was strewn across the walls.
Looks like
They'll
we've got
find
another
you on
piece
your
of Asgard
bathroom
over
floor.
there.
I'm done.
Ready?
Those are a day to remember lyrics, but still extremely unsettling and probably the creepiest thing that's happened to me. I'm pretty sure I'd report that. I was living in San Diego in a large apartment complex. I said hi to a random guy out walking his dog while walking to the shared laundry. The next morning, I found a note with a windshield wiper from the guy DJ
Careful, brother. You're covered in Bygone.
People living directly outside of my window, which overlooks our porch. It sounds like whoever it is right to the side of my window, and I see nobody there. But I am still
bad
freaked out
for
enough that I go downstairs.
And even
my
worse for
family's
the
watching
Guardian
television.
refugees.
A few years later,
Learning
we watch
the
our
god they
creepy old
indebted
neighbor
themselves to
walking
didn't
around our
care for them at
property
all.
late at night, and this leads to
Such
several
profound
encounters involving the police.
Aye.
One day,
Their
after my
homes
father
will not
almost
be the
beats
only
this
thing
guy
they
to
will
death
be
for
rebuilding.
shooting our dog, I hear him laugh, and immediately a show ran called Crime Investigation Australia, which was a surprisingly well-made series about famous Australian killers and the process of bringing them to justice. I got really into it and spent a lot of time ruminating about how horrible it would be to be kidnapped and murdered, knowing you were powerless to stop it because they had tied you up or something. Well, cut to me waking up in a daze, completely disoriented and with no idea where I was. I look around, and I'm in a blank white box with no doors or windows. Sound starts to filter into my head, and I realize I can hear a roaring car engine. The car takes a turn, and I slam into the wall of the box. It hits me. I'm being freaking kidnapped. I start pounding on the walls and screaming for help. After less than a minute, the car grinds to a halt, and I hear footsteps moving along the side of the vehicle. a camouflage door open, and a policewoman is standing there with a stern look on her face. Turns out I blacked out at the end of exams party and passed out on the sidewalk before I got home. Two lovely policewomen stuck me in a paddy wagon and spent the next hours driving me around trying to find my house. My ID still said I lived in a dorm, but I'd moved off 6 months earlier and the RAs there had no idea of my new address. My kidnapping was just me coming to in the back of the paddy wagon. In the end, they got through to one of my friends on my phone, one of the few who weren't too crap-faced to say my address, and dropped me back at my place. Considering it would have saved them masses of time and hassle just to throw me in the trunk tank overnight, I was hugely grateful and sent their station a very sincere thank you letter. The aquarium when I was still in elementary school. There was an exhibit on plankton with binocular microscopes. I was looking into one of the microscopes. Suddenly, my hand is yanked from the side of the microscope and my hand instantly feels warm and slimy. I look up to see an R girl holding my hand in her mouth. I cannot adequately describe my reaction in bullet points. This is how stories should be posted for us slow-minded Redditors. It was about 1 a.m. and I walked to a casino across the street from a bar to take a pee and sober up a bit. I was taking the escalator upstairs when this old guy, 60 plus, walks up to me and tells me about this room he's got upstairs and how I'm invited to come up with him. I declined and at the door of the escalator, I came into the bedroom into a stall. He's standing there looking at me and facing me with his back. When moving to college, I used to work at a drive-through espresso stand in an industrial area near school. It was your usual friendly blonde barista who would sell them small coffee used to make and help the tip jar. So one day, I get a older-looking gentleman, not a day younger than 60, who stops by and orders a can of Diet Coke, which goes for $1. He gives me $1 and puts $5 in my tip jar. The first time it's not a big deal, but I'll definitely remember next time. He continues to come by 2 to 3 times per week and always repeats the staff. Customers will walk for our cars that still gives the $1 tips every time. Nice man, always easy to talk to, and eventually he bumped it up to a
Careful, brother. You're covered in bifrost.
Up and I'm working. My $1 Coke man drives up and I go to the back to grab his drink. When I come up to the window, there laying for me was a box of chocolates, 2 dozen roses, and $100. I was freaked out. I didn't even refuse the money, but he stuck it into my tip jar before driving off.
What you need?
At this time, school was overwhelming anyways, so I came to the decision that things just
Know what
weren't
you want?
safe for me there, and my 30 hours per week schedule was too overwhelming. I loved the job so much and was sad to leave, but I gave
Y'all
my 2 weeks
feeling,
notice. The
crack?
following weeks, the $1 Coke man continued to come by to get his $1 Coke and tip me $100. I kept asking my boss for advice on how to handle the
Thanks for grabbing that
situation,
for
but she'd
us.
laugh it off and tell me just to take the money. I probably could have handled the situation better, but I was too shy to say no. On my very last day, mind you, I never told anyone I was leaving for my own safety. The $1 Coke man came by, ordered his Coke, tipped me $100, and before he left, he asked me what I was doing that weekend and if I'd like to go out with him. Let me cite my earlier comment on being shy and not being able to say no. I did in fact avoid saying no in this situation too. I said I had to wait for the schedule to come out from work and work around my school schedule, and I'd let him know next time. At the end of the day, I blacked out every bit of information about me, wrote notes to everyone who would come after me to never give out my information, locked up, and left. I believe I made about $1,000 off that. It was such an awful situation that haunts me to this day. It's entirely possible that he gave money not as a failed attempt at courtship, but rather as an attempt to manipulate
I
you
taught
through
him
guilt.
20 different
I was
ways to
walking home
cold
once alone,
forge a bolster.
so
Once, he taught me a slightly easier method of wire pulling, and from that day on, called me his apprentice.
A true asshole he was. Gods, I'm gonna miss him.
Hi, y'all made it. Just about to send him off.
dawned on me much later what would have happened. Orthodox Judaism PM, saving children the world over. This didn't necessarily happen to me, but it was creepy nonetheless. I had just gotten off work.
I have met many on my travels. You are one of the few I would call friend.
I always thought you were one of the dumbest creatures I'd ever met. Didn't expect you to be the bravest, too.
This world is a darker place for your leaving it.
We're taking him to the Sphaired Sands. It's, in the wetlands near the ferry. We'll wait for you there.
Me instead of cops first, since they could provide much more immediate assistance. I tell her to call the cops and head toward my house. If the cops hadn't pulled him over by the time she got to the house, me and my roommate would be waiting for him with decorative katanas. We hang up, she calls the cops, then calls back until they pull him over behind her. They search his car and find rope, knives, and drugs in the back seat. He gets arrested for intent to violate. I get a BJ for my intent. Just interjected to say that I would totally pee in a cup and watch someone drink it for $400. I don't have $400. I posted one creepy thing that happened, but I thought I would post by far the creepiest. No, I was 13. It was late at night, and I felt areas out of wild imagination. Instead, faces the door at the top of our stairs and into my parents' bedroom. One night, my mom was at work and my dad was visiting my grandmother. So I was in my room listening to Backstreet Boys or something and heard someone coming up the stairs. We didn't lock our doors again. He asked me how my night was, and I just went pale. This day, we cannot figure out what happened. We checked the house, no one was there, but our house has been known for being haunted, if you believe in that. We've had several people leave our house because it just didn't feel right, and some out-of-the-ordinary things have happened that could only be explained by the reason. I never stayed in my house by myself. It seems a ghost was trying desperately to sleep with your mother. Seriously though, this one freaked me out, far-fetched or not. Me and my friend used to go to Subway a lot. Every weekend or half day of school, we would go down and eat lunch there.
Damn it.
We even ate
What is
dinner there
wrong?
a few times.
I should have
Eventually, the people working there started
changed.
recognizing us, had our
Sewn some
orders
mourning
ready when
garb.
we came, all
We're
that
not
stuff.
dressed
So one day
properly.
in the middle
We're
of the
fine.
summer, we see this old
Dwarves
guy
don't
minding his
typically
own
require
business,
formal
sitting at
wear
a
at
booth eating
funerals.
his sandwich.
Brock certainly
My friend
would
and I
not.
get our sandwiches,
Perhaps.
and we take the booth
Phil,
in front of him.
now you've
So the
got me
way this
thinking
was
of
set
what I
up
might look like
was
with
that
some
I was
jewellery
facing
around
the
my
old
neck
guy,
stump.
but my friend was
Maybe
in
some
between us,
gold
facing
woven
away
into
from
my
me,
beard.
facing me.
That'd be quite
So
fetching,
when we
eh?
sit down at the table, I see the old guy look up, and he just
Thanks for
starts
trying.
staring at my friend. My friend obviously doesn't notice, so I try to inconspicuously say, "Hey, that dude behind you is kind of staring at you." My friend turns around, and the guy looks back down at his sandwich, pretending nothing happened. My friend turns back around, making a kind of creeped out face, but we quickly...
There they are, brother.
Oh, come on, surely he'll be along. It's his brother.
Let's hope so. Loss can do things to a man. You made it. We can begin.
The old dude leaves them. A few days later, we come back, the old guy isn't there. We had our sandwiches, and later on, I look to my right, and right through this glass wall type thing is the old guy just standing there, staring at my friend. We tell the people working there, and they call the cops. But the old guy sees them, so he gets in his car and drives away, so they put on the call. Next day, me and my friend are eating there again. We wouldn't give up that place over some creepy old guy. The employees had specific orders to call the cops if they ever see that old guy. So a couple of customers come in while me and my friend are eating, and the worker
shoppers there are busy, so I look down to make a bite of my sandwich, and suddenly I look up and see the old guy walking briskly over to my friend. I start to say, watch out, but before I finish the word, the old guy grabs my friend by the chest and his back and tries to drag him out of the booth, saying some incomprehensible jabber. I was freaking scared as crap, and my friend was too, so acting out of pure adrenaline, I throw my meatball marinara, maybe something else, and marinara sauce, at his face, and as soon as he hits his eyes and blinks, he was blinded and started screaming, and everyone got his clothes frozen in shock, so I get up and reach him right in the throat, and he falls unconscious. I never thought I would be able to watch that. Freaking crazy. I was eventually arrested, and we got free sandwiches there, and things like relocated, so it's been or something. And sitting in the back seat, and it was getting my teeth cleaned at the dentist office I'd never been to, as I was moving to San Francisco. The dentist was old, insane at 60, generally and the dentist didn't acknowledge it, so so I take his hand and he pulls me in with a shake. He lets go and the receptionist asks if I'd like to begin my next check.
Sentry. Brok was.
I had just turned 21 and I was living in a sketchy apartment. My boyfriend drove me home and there was a goddamn junkie just sitting on the ground. He explains that he's there with my treasure and made lots of and check the store. My boyfriend was somewhat of a jerk and was always looking at me like to treat him like my best friend, so I didn't risk it. Junkie asks for a tour of the house and seems super interested in the laundry from the house wall.
A hole.
I foolishly went in ahead of him and he followed me. I thought, well, I'm gonna get watched.
What?
Being stupid. Instead, he
Gets
carefully
bigger
turned and asked
the
me
more
a
you
bunch of
take
detailed
away.
questions about how to operate. I quickly retreated to my bedroom, which mercifully had a lock on the door. I could make it was safe and sound.